take 1 second to check out our third kit. It's the fourth wall. It's the fifth element. It's the sixth sense. A seventh son must have ate 9 mushrooms to come up with 10 different tops, all being worn by the outfield players of one team, the same team. It's unbelievable. I had never noticed this before. It was when Hagi was getting substituted off in the 78th minute. I didn't notice it. It registered, but I didn't realise until later, until I'd watched it a few times. Until I'd watched that game a few times at Rugby Park the other night. He's coming off the park when he gets subbed off, Yanis. And where the Sky cameras are, I'm watching it on television, I'm watching it live on Sky. And the away end's right behind him. And that's where, at the start of the game, there had been this massive tifo, a beautiful tifo from the Rangers support the other night, taking up the whole stand, and it was blue and white stripes all the way along the stand. Vertical blue and white stripes all the way along the stand, but right in the middle, slap bang in the middle of what's a comparatively small stand, well, compared to Ibrox anyway. A massive crest, a massive line rampant. Was it red or white on a blue background, on a blue kind of shield? And like a circular anyway. And at the very top of it, just tucked up the very top, right above it, because this kind of circular shield was taking up the very middle, almost the full height of the stand. There was just a bit of red. There was a kind of square bit of red, that 2 or 3 rows that were visible above the kind of roundness of the shield, squared off. The top of a square of red, just directly above where Yanis Hagi's head was as he came off the park. And on his kit, below the kind of roundness of his collar, just above his chest, right in the kind of middle of his chest, but just a bit kind of higher up, there was this splodge of red that was actually, it looked a bit like a red card had been tucked into a pocket. There's splodges of red all over that kit, all over that kind of navy dark blue kit. It's a dark blue kit, that third kit of Rangers, and it's all different red. And I just noticed that on Yanis's kit, it looked like somebody tucked a red card into a pocket, because the red, it's square at the top, but it's then kind of subsumed into the shadow patterns and what have you, the deep dark blue of that quite interesting third kit. And I'm thinking that's quite a bit. I didn't think about it the first time I saw it. It just registered in a kind of subliminal level, and it was later on when I was watching the game again and again that I realised this wee kind of patterning thing with the red. And then I'm watching again the interviews of James Tavernier and Cyril Dessers. They're getting interviewed at the same time by Luke Shanley, was it? Sky Sports anyway. And I don't know if it's in the tunnel at Rugby Park or whatever it is, the interview area. And Tav eventually is presenting the Man of the Match award to Cyril. And I'm thinking, they don't have that red square thing. And they kind of, it looks like a red card tucked in a pocket. They don't have that on their kit. Neither of them have got that in their tops. And I'm like, wait a minute. Tav's got a splodge like just below the collar that isn't on Cyril Dessers, and they're both wearing the same top, but it's totally different. Now, this is unbelievable. I found it quite wondrous, almost childlike wonder. I don't think this is quite, but I think that I'm really into football strips. I think that I'm stuck, but no, it's like all the stuff that happens when you're an old man. There's a basic interest there. There's a retained interest, but there's also a kind of ghost, a remnant of the full-on proper interest, the all-consuming interest you had in that stuff whenever football strips first registered with you. With me, it was probably the 1977, yes, I said 77, European Cup final, the first European match I ever watched on television. Sorry, I've said this a million times before on this pod, and it was just a month after I'd been to my first senior football match when I went to see Rangers at home to Hibs. And I remember watching this, and yes, it is at the time before there was regular live games on television, and strips were different throughout different countries in the world. They weren't all, they weren't dominated by the same designs and that as they are just now. And it was Borussia Mönchengladbach's kit. And if you look back at footage of that game, you see pictures from that game just now, the 1977 European Cup final, Liverpool 3, Borussia Mönchengladbach 1. The Borussia Mönchengladbach kit looks fairly standard by today's standards, but it blew my mind back then. It absolutely blew my mind. It was like, I was just coming up in 8 years old, really, but I know people talk about the first time they saw Led Zeppelin, or that time they saw the New York Dolls on the old grey whistle test, mock rock and all that. I was just like, this is unbelievable. It blew my mind. And my poor mum was going round Saltcoats, the sports shops and Saltcoats, asking if they had a Borussia Mönchengladbach kit. Listen, hen, it's Rangers, it's Celtic, or it's Scotland. And that's all we've got. I can maybe rustle you up a Liverpool top, but that is it. This was the 70s. Times were hard. Austerity football kits. And nowadays I see all these young guys, guys in their 30s and 40s who've got like websites and Instagram pages with thousands and thousands of brilliant, fascinating stuff, kits that they've bought, and kit swap, like replica kit swapping and all that is a massive trade. These days, it's a great hobby. I'm not particularly interested in it, but I thought I was right into football strips, but stuff like that, the details they give, the information they give on various kits, and I'm like, oh my god, that's mind blowing. That's too much for me. I can't handle that level of information about football strips. But the other night, first I thought and I realised more than that. I was today years old, as they say, when I found out that the third kit we've been wearing this season is different from the one we were wearing last season. I know, I'm not colourblind. It's just, I know the one we're wearing this season is mostly dark blue with a whole lot of red splodges on it, whereas the one we wore last season was red with a whole lot of royal blue splodges on it. That's what it takes. I'm not interested enough. I don't have that lust, that instinctive sponge-like need to know, and also fascination with football kits. But it was getting slowly ignited again. I remember saying last season, when we beat Dundee 5-0 at Dens Park, I remember, and it was amazing that the strip we were wearing, our third strip, was kind of reflected by the pyro. Remember, that was the night the mad pyro. The game was delayed because of the rain, and it was also because we were late getting there because of the rain, but it was also delayed because of the pyro from the away support that night. So it was amazing that the strip itself is like red, like fire with blue on it. I was also saying, and thank God I can look at that strip again, because that was a kit that we wore when we lost 2-1 in to RS Limassol in Limassol under Steve Davis. And I'm like, it's great. I was going into detail about it last season, but to me it was just like, this is one of these strips that the young ends are into. It's a bit clatty looking. It's a bit messy looking. I don't really get why that's a good look. And I just thought the one we had this season, the third kit this season, was the same. Because I'm not really invested. But what's happened is I've watched the game the other night and Wednesday night 3-4 times, and I've watched the interviews 3 or 4 times because I enjoyed it so much. And also, I do want to know. I'm studying Barry's. What's he done to the team? What's Barry doing to the team? What's the changes he's going to make? But mostly it was just, we went and scored 4 straight goals at Rugby Park for the first time since Walter Smith was in charge of us. It was amazing. It was buzzing. I was getting that kind of childlike wonder. But my wife would tell you what actually happened. I'd still managed to express it like an old man. I was sitting there watching the interviews back, and I'm going, wait a minute. Hey, see that bit in Tav's kit? Dessers hasn't got it in his. How come they've... why is the SFA letting them... That's different strips. They're wearing different... Oh, Jesus Christ. If you're going to make me watch it, can I just at least hear what they're saying? But that's it. It's just bad enough, like goalkeepers these days. Like the Aberdeen goalkeepers wearing like a pink top, and the rest of these teams wearing red tops, and it's like, that Schmeichel, he's allowed to wear a green top with like yellow bits on it. Well, playing for Celtic, and they're always wearing green, and the Celtic... Oh, good God, you have to... I did initially express it like, a cranky old man that in reality I am, but I found it wondrous. I got that childlike wonder back in last... Twinkle, twinkle, little star, 5 of them where you would normally wear your bra, all around our crest so bright. I know we've got 5, but it will only be right until we get a 6th star, 'cause that'll mean we're back to where we were in terms of... See, it's creepy. When I try to express childlike wonder, it's actually creepy. I've got to talk like an old man, that, because it's not good. It's just last Saturday, one of the things I noticed, one of the things I realised, again today I realised it, belatedly, that you notice stuff like that when you're really, really happy, but also when you're really, really traumatised or really, really depressed or just going through hell, like you were as well last Saturday. Sitting at Ibrox, standing at Ibrox, leaving Ibrox, hearing the score for Ibrox, just going, what the You know, and we got a game tomorrow, Saturday, 3 o'clock, back at Ibrox, and everything's going to have changed, and we're hoping everything changes, you know, positively on the park as well. We get another go at having a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, or we can have a nice Saturday night and a nice relaxing Sunday, because everything's just ruined by a game like last Saturday's. And I didn't realise until I was last Saturday years old that where I sit in the main stand front, I can see the very front of the enclosure below me. Now, I can see like basically the very front of the, like when I was young, you'd go right up. That's where the fence would be on the west enclosure. I'm above the west, sorry, the east enclosure. I'm above the east enclosure, towards the Copeland end, and I didn't realise I could actually see folk walking, you know, along without having. And if I sit up a wee bit, if I go like that, I can see the front row of seats in the enclosure in front of me. I realised that when shortly after the second goal went in for St Mirren, and you're just kind of, you know, you get that kind of semi-shock that you expected it. It's the way the game had been gone, but it's so boring you can't actually believe. Rangers were so bad you can't believe just how bad they were, even though there's been thousands of people complaining about Rangers all season. It's still like, it's not been that bad. They haven't been this bad. This is. I don't really believe this is happening, but I do. There was a fella walking just in front. I just noticed him. You know, I suddenly realised, I can see the front, like the kind of gangway it is now, right down the front of the seats. That bit you can walk along to the very front of the enclosure to leave. And this fella probably younger than me or whatever, but no, definitely his 40s, and he had a wee Wayne with a wee boy with him. You know, and it was something orange. I don't know what it was. It was something really bright and orange, something really kid-like. You know, it was a teddy bear, or maybe it was a big ball that he had with him, or something. It's a kind of thing that you can imagine. Oh, taking the Waynes to the game today. I bring that along with me. It'll be great. And then it turns into hell on earth. You know, and the wee boy wasn't caring. He's still dotting along on it. With whatever it was. Maybe it was a rucksack or something, like a teddy bear. It was just the wee boy. He was kind of pre-primary school age, you know, but he's obviously just having a great day out. No realising that, like, me and his dad and all that are dying inside. And it was where the substitutes warm up just in front of me, or way down below me, the bit of the pitch towards the Copeland, the off pitch, the bit of grass before you go into the track, where the subs warm up. It was Tom Lawrence, I think Bailey Rice were warming up down there just after St Mirren had scored, and this fella just stopped. And normally in that bit, I suddenly really what it is, I can see the kids at the beginning of the game, all the wee kids go to the front of that. One of the things you don't really think about at the time, because you're talking to your pals and all that. But they're all shouting. Oh, you know, Bailey, you know, Igamane. You know, and the players are all warming up, and sometimes they'll give them a wee thumbs up, and they'll give them a wee wave, or they'll go down if it's before the game and get a wee selfie with a few of them. Hagi, they love Hagi. I always say, Hagi, and they always call him Hagi. They never call him Giannis. Even when they're out warming up, when it's actually during the game, the Waynes will still be shouting at them, and they'll sometimes turn and give them a wee thumbs up or a wee wave and all that, you know, and it's nice. And this time the wee boy wasn't talking to he was just walking out because his dad was pure raging, but his dad stopped and was having a word with Tom Lawrence, who had the bib on that he's warming up. And I don't know, the guy wasn't gesticulating madly. He obviously had to raise his voice to be heard by Tom Lawrence, but Tom Lawrence had heard him, and he turned round and he's looking at him, and he's gone. He's taking this guy seriously, you know, and he's like, right, yeah, mate, aye, okay. And I think he went to give him a thumbs up as if to say, I acknowledge what you said, but then he realised a thumbs up's inappropriate right now. As we go 2-0 down to St Mirren, he's like, right, okay, right, aye. Almost like the guy's saying to him, I want you to tell the manager and all your teammates that I'll not be back. Or, this is the fucking worst thing I've ever seen in my life. These are pathetic. Right, mate, okay, fair dues. And away he went. And I'd realised then that's what it is, the child, the kids love it. Waynes love it when it's totally serious, when stuff's totally depressing. You know what I mean? Because the adults, they're still having a great day out. It's still a big, that wee boy's going into school in the winter. All wee boys or wee lassies, etc. They'll be going into school on Monday going, aye, my dad stood up and he's like, you're a useless baldy Belgian bastard, come on. Sorry, aye. And my uncle said to him, you know, aye, you're just a gaslighting, see you next Tuesday. He said, aye. And this guy threw his bovril and it didn't get onto the park and it hit this woman, and then her husband was wanting to bat him. It's great fun. It's great fun. I felt as if last Saturday, though, even the Waynes, most of them were kind of like, you know, it's been happening since 2012, especially at a time in the lower leagues. You see a lot of boys, by boys, I'm talking boys my age, you know, 40s into 50s. You know, I'm mid 50s now. That's been at that time. They'd go in, they'd sit down, maybe watch half an hour of us struggling against Alloa or Peterhead or whatever, and they'd turn around and just go, Loudon, Jim, Davy, we just going to, giving it the old pint sign, just head down, get a cup, aye, fuck this, aye. Well, we're heading anyway, see you down there. So you're heading it. It was the last week, just imagine all the wee kids just giving it, Mom, Dad, I said, McFlurry, man, out of here, get us, no, we're going to go large. If I don't get a fucking Burger King, Pizza Hut, KFC or something, I'm going to go mental here. That's how shit. It was bad. So it was lovely. It was absolutely lovely on Wednesday night to, again, get that feeling of just, it was the relief. Don't get me wrong, it was the relief, but also Barry turning into everything that we thought Clermont wasn't. I don't know what you call it when, do you get a counter earthquake? It's just all been too much. I mean, the Queen's Park defeat was utterly seismic. Utterly, it was a disaster. It was an unmitigated disaster of epic proportions. But then you get the result at Tynecastle, where it was almost perfect because we've won, but we've been awful. So everybody can still, they don't have to, bring themselves to praise the team. It kind of carries on the mood. It lets you still kind of deal with the shock of the Queen's Park because you can just still be grudging and hot. Oh, right, we won. So it's not made any worse. You don't have to hype yourself up again to get outraged. But at the same time, there's no way you can give the team any praise. So it's like, I was trying, but it just wasn't happening. But then you get hit. It's like a counter earthquake coming the other way, like a good earthquake. We're going to get a take. All our dreams are going to come true. These Americans are going to say the San Francisco 49ers or somebody that's got something to do with it. It's going to come in and buy us and give us all the money we want, and that's it. It's over. We'll be winning at least every second league title, and it's not going to be endless trebles for Celtic. It'll be, a wee treble every now and then for us as well. It's going to be, it's going to be fantastic. It's just, I don't know if you've ever had an earthquake, but you get an earthquake and you see the footage in telly in these faraway places where the road opens up as a massive big cleft. The roads are cleft in twain, and there's the electrical pylons are all on the ground, and if it's that harbour or something, it's a tsunami. Ships are all sitting like in the middle of a housing estate and something. It's horrendous, total nightmare. It was like there'd been another tsunami had come for the other, it was an isthmus or peninsula or whatever you call it, and it just picked everything up. It had thrown put the ships back in the water where they're supposed to be. It shoved the roads back together, put all the buildings back up, and there's your electrical pylons also. And everybody's just like, all right, that's it. It was like they hit each other, and it was, oh my god, it was a disaster. Now it's absolutely fantastic. And then we just go to the game on Saturday, and the bottom falls out of our world again. It's just like, it's too much. It's too much to deal with. And then Barry Ferguson's going to be, what? And so many of us have got so many different conflicting emotional attachments to Barry, as it is. It's simply the greatest, maybe the greatest ever Rangers raised player. Or certainly midfielder, whatever, certainly since the war. I don't know. He's just a legend anyway of my lifetime, and at Rangers at a time where we've got so much success, getting to a European final, what have you, but also so much conflict, Le Guin and just trying to go a different way and this kind of thing, try to avoid the EBTs, avoid having to do all that. Walter Smith getting rid of him and being stripped to the captaincy by Scotland, and it was just all kind of all over the place with Barry. And then he's come into the middle. It felt almost he's like the counter tsunami or something like that. I don't know. And then you see the management team he's getting in alongside him. You think maybe work. It'll maybe be okay. It's maybe going to be. It's just I knew we're playing. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Ek. This is the fourth time we've played Motherwell this season, but this is the first time we're playing them at Ibrox. How the hell did that happen? Preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet. It'll be, by the time you see this, it'll have been on the Friday night preview pod. It is Rob and it's Stuart. So it was on at 9 o'clock on the YouTube channel tonight, Friday on Jersnet. Check it out because they boys they'll look after you. They'll give you a proper preview pod. I'm sponsored by Jersnet. I'm also sponsored by Playing with a Smile on Your Face. Yeah, I know what you were thinking when you heard Robin Proper saying that today. I was, the opposition are smiling when they hear you saying it. Maybe a bit less smiling, a bit less joking, Robin Proper. It was okay when it was Marvin Andrews, wasn't it? Or you didn't mind Big Marvin playing with a smile on his face because he was built and he's going to totally, sort folk out. It's not very staunch. Play with a smile on your face. I just let the guy just let him see out to the end of the season and go where he's got to go. He looks pure goofy, doesn't he? He's totally goofy looking. Big Robin. It'll be great tomorrow because he's playing against a German manager. It's going to be totally European. He'll probably be absolutely fantastic against Fenerbahce as well. I know I'm kind of hoping doesn't play either. That's a terrible thing to say, but it was an absolute nightmare the other night. It was, we've got Motherwell coming to Ibrox tomorrow, which means Barry Ferguson's coming to Ibrox tomorrow, and I'm still trying to compute what happened the other night at Rugby Park and take it all in. You probably are too. It was press conference day, pre-match presser today, Barry's second pre-match presser, and I feel as if he's just grown into it. I feel as if he's totally, in the space of putting on the blazer, I feel as if he just became Rangers manager. Oh, obviously, literally is Rangers interim manager just now, but he seemed like it. He seemed like he totally fitted the bill. And again, I think the press were trying quite hard the other night to get him to say stuff. The other Tuesday afternoon, the pre-match presser to Kilmarnock, I think they were trying to get him to kind of say stuff and particularly make out that he wants the job long term. I think that was all gone from what I heard in that kind of the 13 minutes on Rangers TV of the presser today, and try and get him to somebody say something about, you seem to enjoy talking to Diamande the other night because he was having a good game in midfield. You're a midfielder. You like getting your teeth into him. I was like, so he come out and he said, well, I'm trying to get my teeth into all our players, hopefully. And I was like, oh, is that him giving them a line? Is that, I'm going to be biting all my players? But I think it was actually quite good because he's it's like a quiet aggression, positivity. But going forward, facing up to it, is the mantra from, we've got to dominate other teams. This is Barry's mantra, and I thought, no, it's actually quite a good line, but I'm totally terrified he's going to say something, but he doesn't look like somebody who's impersonating a manager. That's the number one thing for me. He's a Rangers man. He is Rangers, Barry Ferguson, and he's so at home in the job. He doesn't look caught in the headlights, as I say, and he's very professional. He's very professional in what he's doing, and it's sincerity. I know what they say about faking sincerity, but remember I was talking about when the Queen's Park post-match presser, it was like Clement didn't get it. That was like he did not understand what he'd just done. And maybe if he'd come across as devastated as we were feeling, he might have had a chance, but he realised too late in that press conference from the reaction of particularly the fan media what he'd just done. And he had to push himself to swearing. Oh, it was I'm fucking annoyed or whatever it was. And it sounded so plastic. And I was like the one time I saw Richard and Judy were on TFI Friday, and Richard was having fun swearing, trying to look like a cool cat. I didn't realise it's the same episode that I always remember for one of my other same episode of TFI Friday that I always remember for one of my other painfully, I repeat this so often, so I'm sorry if you've heard this before, but it's something I always think about when it comes to sincerity, authenticity, whatever, or stuff that I don't have. It's actually the same it's the same episode, and he goes, who's the wee guy, the ginger guy, Chris Evans, the host. I've looked this up a few times on YouTube just to see that I didn't imagine this gig, this performance that I'd seen. But he's talking to Richard and Judy. It's the same episode. Then he goes to, now we're going to go to, and it's Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics. Dave Stewart of Eurythmics fame. And he's got Natalie Imbruglia, Kylie Minogue, and Sinead O'Connor. And they're pretending to be like the backing singers of his band. So they're done up in kind of like cocktail dresses, or a big ball. It's a big kind of ball gown that Sinead's wearing. They've all got wigs on. And they're calling themselves something like a drunk, a floozy, and an unfit mother. And it's Sinead O'Connor that's calling herself an unfit mother. And if you've know anything about Sinead O'Connor and her kids and that, it's harrowing, to think back on it. But it's late 90s, and it's supposed to be a spoof. And the first song they do is a kind of cheesy, jaunty, almost like a kind of Cockney musical type number, and they're just doing wee backing singer stuff. And the thing is, Sinead O'Connor, even at that time, had a reputation for being, unbelievably serious because of what she'd been through as a person and what have you. But she'd heart and soul into her music, pouring her guts out and all that. But she's having great fun. She's loving being with the girls. You'd think, if what you know about Sinead O'Connor, you think she'd be turning her nose up at, kind of pop stars like Kylie Kylie and Natalie and Brulia, particularly, lassies that, are known for their sexy bodies and all that kind of stuff. Kind of page 3 stunner types, or lads mags type mags. I mean, they're still great artists and all that, and that's what they want to do. That's absolutely fantastic. But of course, no, she's having great fun. She's loving it. You can see she's loving the camaraderie with the girls and all that. She's having a total laugh, and they're just singing along, and that's great. I think that's really nice. I'm getting choked up. And then they go back, and it cuts to, if you watch it on YouTube, it just cuts straight to the next number. The next number they do is like kind of medley of Eurythmics numbers. And it's like Sweet Dreams and Love is a Stranger and all that. And they go back to, the girls are supposed to do their bits. And Sinead comes in and does the Annie Lennox bits. And it's unbelievable. It's just like, and she's smiling away and all that because she thinks she's in the groove of, this is just a cheesy, we're taking the mickey out of ourselves. She's loving herself, but she can't not do it properly. She can't not sing these songs properly. She can't not be Sinead O'Connor singing. She's not impersonating Annie Lennox. She's just doing Sinead O'Connor singing these songs, and it's phenomenal. And I just think that's somebody who just can't turn it off. That's somebody who just can't help, being brilliant. If you're asking her to perform her art, she can't help perform. Even when she thinks she's being light-hearted and what have you, it's devastating. It's so good. I love Sinead O'Connor, and. Listen, I know she might have said something about the IRA or something like that, but she also has got a bit of reputation for. She's she's known for being quite anti the Pope and all that. So if we're going to be super staunch about this, let's cancel each other out. I totally love Sinead O'Connor, and I get that same feeling for Barry. It's up and down with him. He's emotive. He's emotional. He's been all over the place with Rangers. In terms of his relationship with the club and what have you. And he cannot switch himself. He cannot switch it off. He can't fake it. In these press conferences, my heart just goes out to him. And sometimes my chest is bursting with pride. I did not in any way want him to get that job. I just thought it was a terrible decision, and it might turn out to be. But my God, there's no getting away from the fact that Cyril Dessers scored that goal when he made it 2 each with that downward header, stooping to conquer. In the second half at Rugby Park the other night, and he turns, and it's the bench. He's signalling to the bench. It's probably, you saw him with Billy Dodds at the end, so it's probably a bit of striker to striker coaching going on there, maybe at half time, a bit of advice. But Hagi's doing the same. It's the two of them are shouting at the bench with total passion, like, we're doing this for you kind of thing. It's, I don't know if Barry's got that going. He was saying that maybe the first half hour where we went 2 goals down after 14 minutes, and we're terrible for the first half hour. So maybe we gave them too much to think. We'd give them too many instructions before the game, and I'm thinking that'll be Neil McCann if his sports scene kind of analysis is in to go by. I've got to rewind Neil McCann's. Right, let me take some notes there, Neil, before I watch that again. Maybe it was Neil McCann was laying on too much instructions on them, but I think on Monday, when Barry first got the job, I had this idea in my head that Barry's kind of instructions to the team before the game were going to be, get it fucking forward. We're the ones playing in blue. No, we're shooting that way. That round thing, there's the ball. That was the kind of level of instruction you expect for Barry, and that's horrific by me. Apart from anything else, he's led Rangers to a European final. He's been managed by Walter Smith. He's played Champions League matches. He's won the League Cup with Birmingham against Arsenal at Wembley, and he basically ran the English Premier League for a few months and decided he was bored because there wasn't enough pressure on him to come back to Rangers. I know he got a bit of injury down there as well, but he's just, apart from managing in his own right, I think he's worked with some pretty amazing guys. He's worked at a fantastic level of football. He scored against Italy, who were world champions at the time, at Hampden, equalised against Italy in a tight as anything European Championship qualifier. It doesn't always follow that great players become great managers. I don't think Barry will become a great manager, but it doesn't always follow that, because they've got no great coaching experience, that they're going to be terrible coaches. It's like he is part of the club. He is part of Rangers, 1 second, please. Oh my God, this cold, it's absolutely killing me. Sorry, folks. It's not killing me at all. It's not in any way stressful in. It's just when I'm trying to talk to you guys, and I think half the time it's brought on by wanting to cry a bit and a bit just how emotional things have been lately. So anyway, it was quite good that we got Thursday off. A wee recovery session for us all yesterday. I had sausage rolls, mostly watching sports scene. I sent a few abusive tweets to Michael Stewart using the same anonymous account that I used to send abusive tweets to Chris Sutton on Wednesday night. But we're here, folks. We're kind of fresh, revived, and under no illusions that this pod is going to last any less than an hour. I remember we had a kind of narrow 1-0 win over Motherwell at Ibrox in the first of Michael Beale's stay of execution games. It's really weird how this. I think Beale, did he beat Betis? It was after he'd lost that game to Celtic. That when Michael Beale lost that game to Celtic at Ibrox, Celtic they'd drawn 0-0 with St Johnstone the week before. Rodgers, who half the Celtic fans still hated for having left him at all, he was getting booed. The players were getting booed at Parkhead, and we were, had got ourselves together. It was like, but failing to win that game, losing that game was like when David Cameron decided to just to appease the right wing of his party, the nutter element of his party. He had a referendum on membership of the European Union, and we're still paying the price for that today. Europe might be paying the price for that today. The free world might still be paying the price for that today. And it was like Michael Beale, just to appease the nutter, the egomaniac guru, a wannabe football guru side of his brain, had decided he was going to overcomplicate things in that game against Celtic and abandon the easiest tactic of like getting on top of Callum McGregor. But just let them off with it, and we are still paying the price for that today. Because Celtic a double last season, they're heading for a treble this season. So that was it was much worse. It got much worse than we realised it would at the time. But his coat was on the shaky peg after that game, and I think we beat Livingston 4-0 in the League Cup midweek, having already beat them 4-0 in the league, I think earlier in the season, and we beat Betis, I'm sure, at Ibrox after that game. But the first one was Stuart Kettlewell's playing really well against us the following Sunday, and we beat them 1-0, but it wasn't enough to appease the doubters, and then we get that loss to Aberdeen, and that was that. And it was like Giovanni van Bronckhorst, he had Hearts, same as Gio, who was before Michael Beale, and then Clement, obviously, who was after Michael Beale. They both had stay of execution games against Hearts, didn't they? Because Gio lost at St Johnstone after having drawn at home with Livingston, but he lost 2-1 at St Johnstone, and then we played Hearts midweek and just beat them 1-0. It wasn't quite enough of a performance, but it was a win. And then we drew away to St Mirren the following game, and that was it. It was all over. And Clement, it was Queen's Park, just unbelievable. And then we go to Tynecastle and we win, but it's not quite convincing anybody. And then it's St Mirren the following week. That's it. These stay of execution gate. It's the kind of writing on the wall periods that we've had. We've had 3 of them straight over the last kind of 3.5 years. And I think when we were beaten Hearts at Tynecastle, Niels Coppin was out actually putting the writing on the wall. I think it's that. Is it Martha King Street? It's that shop, the newsagent on Copeland Road. It's it's like facing away from the stadium, but it used to have a cash line in it. But that's up the side of that is like the wee car park on Martha King Street. Just as you turn up for where the old Ranger shop used to be, it's kind of diagonally opposite the entrance to the Masonic Hall. The Masonic Lodge, there's a big. I think the Union Bears had vandalism up there, but I think when Philip Clement was losing, winning 3-1 at Tynecastle, Niels Coppin was in there with the tins and all the spray cans, just getting it up there. It's Baza, McCann, Dodsey, and Griggs. I love if it was Griggs or McGregor, maybe around it. But he was literally putting the writing on the wall. And when we lost at home to St Mirren, that was it. God, it was absolutely awful. Last Saturday was one of the most awful days ever at the football. So when Barry comes in, it's like he's a Kardashian. He's the Fergusons are the Rangers Kardashians, and Barry is definitely Kim. It's almost as much of the publicity is about him as anything else. And you wonder, is Patrick Stewart then using it as some sort of cover? Knowing that we'll all be ranting and raving, just want to know about Barry again. It's Barry, and it sends us crazy, so we don't pay any attention to the takeover stuff, so he can get that deal sorted out with Parag Marath or whatever. No, he probably wants as much publicity as possible for the takeover deal, because folk will renew their season tickets, not in case it falls through. Just get the season ticket money in, just now get us all excited. But I did worry about I did worry about his intentions, the new CEO and Niels Coppin when they got Barry in, and it might still get to that point. But tomorrow we face Motherwell. Their new boss is Michael Wimmer, who obviously was married to Jenny Seagrove and directed Charles Bronson in the Death Wish movies. But he arrived a week before Barry. He came to Motherwell a week before Barry came to Ibrox, and he took over at Motherwell from, well, Stevie Frail had been their caretaker in the absence of Stuart Kettlewell after Stuart Kettlewell's shock resignation because of the abuse he was taking as Motherwell manager. And we thought he was doing quite, he certainly gave us, it suits us, no offence to Stuart Kettlewell. And he deserves a lot better than that. He's a hell of a nice guy, Stuart Kettlewell, the way he comes across on the television anyway, and he's given us some serious problems as Motherwell manager this season alone, as well as that game, the stay of execution game for Michael Beale last season. And it just shows you this, the evil Rangers, Scotland shame and all that. It's just the Scottish personality. Every Scottish football team has got this. I remember, I've told you the story before, but some of the stuff I heard that Partick Thistle one day up at Firhill, absolutely horrendous. But this fella, Michael Wimmer, he's a 44-year-old Bavarian who was assistant at VfB Stuttgart for 4 years, something like that, when they're in the Bundesliga. He actually did an 8-game spell as a caretaker for VfB Stuttgart in 2022, after which he got to manage Austria Vienna. Austria Vienna, what a club. I've never seen them. They're one of the teams I need to get off my list. They were runners-up in the 1978 European Cup Runners' Cup final. They're on the list, but I haven't seen them yet. Never won a European trophy. They're runners-up in that 78 Cup Runners' Cup final. Anderlecht gubbed them 4-0 in the Parc des Princes, but they've got a kind of lovely violet kit. The Franz Hohr Stadion, I've been in it, Favoriten district of Austria, and it was one of those ones, the flights in the afternoon, I'm going to nip out here first thing in the morning to just get to tick this off the list. It was before breakfast, and they were playing that day. It was a Saturday, the flight left. I was on holiday in Vienna for a week. This is like 25 years ago. And I remember going in, and they were getting ready, setting up the ground for the game, and it was just gutting. So close, I could touch it. And the old groundsman, and I'm going, I had a camera on me. I'm like, can I get? And the groundsman's like, no, 5 minuten. Brilliant. Go in, stood in the terrace and at the home end and all that. It's not there, it's not. It's all seating now, but it's just beautiful. It was a low, kind of hanging early morning mist with the sun shining through it. A gorgeous, gorgeous ground and a gorgeously romantic football club. Austria Vienna. Anyway, he's manager there for the kind of the classic Philip Clement, 16 months. He gets sacked last May. And now he's wearing jeans at Tannadice, and his debut last Saturday, they get beat 1-0. So he's changed things up a bit. As Michael Wimmer, it was an interview with him on Reporting Scotland on the 7 o'clock to 7:30 show, the supplement on BBC Scotland last night. And he seems like a hell of a nice guy. He's over here on his own and his family. Same as when he was in Austria. His family just stay at home. He comes from Bavaria. His family Austria because he's young kids and that. So it's a hard gig for the fella. But they went from losing to Dundee United, which was their 5th straight loss, Motherwell, and they beat Dundee on Wednesday night where we were winning at Rugby Park. They were beating Dundee 1-0 up, then 1 each, then 2-1. Both their goals scored by Dan Red Card Casey, who no doubt will be playing tomorrow. Motherwell are currently 8th in the league. But as per our next opponent, it's always the same. Every team you're playing these days are always got a chance of going into the top. They're running about the middle of the league, so they're 8th in the table just now. But like a win could possibly put them in the top 6. They're lucky that Kilmarnock are playing Ross County. That's the 2 clubs directly below them, because I think they're only about 3-4 points away from the relegation playoff spot as well. Motherwell, so it's just a middling side, a league middling side yet again. I mean, what St Mirren did to us last week, so that's of no comfort whatsoever. And another club that we've recovered from a 2-goal deficit against this season, Motherwell, but only to draw that time at 2-2 at Fir Park under Clement, 29th of December that was. That was absolutely horrendous, of course. That day was Cortes and Dowell started the game. Igamane and Cerny kind of come on at half-time. Igamane scores 2. And like the game before that, which had been the loss at Paisley, another loss to St Mirren, we didn't push on from having drawn the game level. Motherwell didn't beat us, and we're lucky they didn't, because Jack Butland was throwing the ball into his own net and all that, and it got disallowed for a tiny, tiny foul on him. But we beat them 2-1 at Hampden in our first home game of the season. We were using Hampden as our home in the league. That I think was Dessers and Cerny. A wonder goal from Cerny, a lovely curled shot into the far side of the net. Either side of a Robin Propper debut equaliser for Motherwell. Andy Halliday scoring against us in the League Cup final. In the first half, they're beating us 1-0 in the League Cup semi-final at Hampden. Hampden is a neutral venue this time, and it took Bajrami and Dessers in the second half to turn that one around. So it's been a difficult game every time we've played them this season. Excuse me, sorry. Motherwell have got a terrible record against us. Terrible record against us, but it doesn't feel like that, and it certainly hasn't been that bad this season. So we're going to need to be on our game. It's like when Motherwell beat us 2-1. We've gone from beating Kilmarnock at Rugby Park like a day short of a year since we beat them at Rugby Park, a comeback win again last season to stay top of the league. And the following game was the 2nd of March, and it was Motherwell at Ibrox, and they beat us 2-1. And that was it. So it's a day shy of a year since that game. Again, a rematch of that one. So we're hoping this doesn't turn out the same way. I think that would mean, by that law, Motherwell would have to beat us 4-2 tomorrow. So we don't want that for Barry. We don't want that for ourselves. But as terrible as it was, that defeat last season, number one, Dan Casey should have been sent off for going out to maim. I mean, just to break the legs of Ross McCausland. It's one of the most incredible non-displaying of a red card I've ever seen in my life, even with VAR involved. I still can't get my head around that one at all. And then Dan Casey, to add insult to injury, scores the winner for Motherwell. So I think it had a major influence on the game, but we definitely started slow. It was a game we suddenly looked really tired and I thought it was more a case of we'd got a bit cocky. We'd got a bit kind of, all right, we're top of the league now, but it was the first time we hadn't looked the business under Clement. But I thought it's a wake-up call, they'll need that. And then the next day Celtic lost at Tynecastle as well. So when's the last time both halves of the old firm have lost again? Excuse me. So it didn't bother me too much at the time, but a lot of people have named that obviously as the moment it all started going wrong for Clement. We're top of the league. So Motherwell, very bad memories, and just bad memories in general for Rangers fans just now. There's a lot of bad stuff happening. I wonder if teams are now going to think twice about really coming at us, thinking like we're a wounded animal, after Kelly did that to us to perfection the other night, and seemed to blow us away in that first half hour, and yet still go steamrolled Hamilton tarmac. That was a great joke for the other night. But it seemed like they blew a gasket after we started coming at them. It was like Kilmarnock had nothing left to give. We just scored 4 straight goals against them, so that might put Motherwell off, might make them a bit more cagey tomorrow. Barry still needs to kind of lay down the law to his team and to our opponents. That's what he's talking about today, and he obviously has been doing that in both cases. No more kind of soft touch Rangers, and despite Clement getting us to February unbeaten, almost perfect in domestic games, Barry finds himself tomorrow leading in home domestic games. Barry kind of tomorrow is leading a Rangers who've not only lost the last 2 domestic home games to middling opponents, but after a January of like 3 goals each, scoring 3 goals a game minimum against our opponents at home, we've failed to score a single goal at home in either of the games we played in the month of February at Ibrox. We've conceded 4 straight games, an average of 1.5 goals a game we're conceding over the last 4 games. So it's exactly what a caretaker management team says on the tin tomorrow. Just like sod the long-term future, just stop the recent rot. You know what I mean? Spruce it up, stop it being an embarrassment, visible from miles away, varnish it, get the basic self-respect restored, Ron Seal it, Barry. Ron Seal that absolutely clatty home form that we developed in February. On his debut as Rangers captain, I watched deposed skipper Lorenzo. This is Barry's debut as Rangers captain. I was up in the back of the Govan that night. Lorenzo Amoruso, who'd been stripped of the captaincy, and Barry had been handed the armband, but he harassed Barry all through the kind of early part of the game. I can't remember exactly when Barry got his goal, but Amoruso was like, when we were taking free kicks, he was up to Barry and said, "No, put it over there, no, put it that way, and do this, do that." And he'd come on wearing green boots, or very green touches, very noticeable green touches on his boots. Did big Lorenzo. He was in a huff with everybody, but Barry responded to that, not by rising to or sinking to the levels of Lorenzo. He just kept taking it. I thought, oh, Barry, you're letting him own you. Because he's still a young man at the time. But he just went and scored this absolute wonder goal. He scored an absolute cracker of a goal, Barry, and that's it. He scored, showing that he's not going to let anybody in the dressing room that he's now, captain of, get to him, and he's not going to let the occasion get to him. The armband itself is it's not going to get to him. In fact, it grew into it. Somebody's trying to pressure him, give him hassle, and he rose to that moment and that mantle of being Rangers captain. I always stick up for Tav when people say he's the problem, at Rangers, because he's obviously not the problem. He's a fantastic player, number of goals he's scored, and we'll get into that in a bit. But that, unfortunately, is also Tav's role as captain. Like all the leaders at the club, if the manager gets it, the chairman will get it, the chief executive will get it. If it's not happening, if Rangers are failing, then you're in one of those leadership roles at the club. So it's almost that you need to get it. Symbolically, that's part of your role, to take the abuse, even if you personally don't deserve it. But as I say, didn't rise to Amoruso's kind of goading and what have you, and he did the same thing on Wednesday night in his managerial debut. Rangers managerial debut. Kilmarnock and the more senior manager in the shape of the far more experienced Derek McInnes were exposing, it seemed, the kind of frailties and weaknesses of a brand new Rangers manager. It was little more than a kind of stand-in, Barry, and it seemed to, initially, that's what was showing up, a stooge even. He hadn't managed for over 3 years, and even then it was at the kind of non and lower league level. But again, Barry was neither disrespectful nor phased. He'd given Derek McInnes, he'd given Deeks the praise before the game, but he then set about destroying Derek McInnes' team. He once again rose to the occasion, and almost quarter of a century after I'd worried for him for no reason taking the armband, I realised I'd maybe worried for no reason again about what managing Rangers would do to Barry Ferguson. He's got that kind of club legend magic about him. He couldn't have done that at any other club. I know it's controversial, but I don't think Barry Ferguson could have done what he did the other night. He couldn't have stepped in and did what he did the other night at any other SPFL Premiership side. Like John Gregg and Super Ali, he wouldn't have wanted to either. And like John Gregg and Super Ali, he's not going to win the league. But it's maybe a bit much more than that. It's not what he's here for, Barry Ferguson, to win the league. The press conference today, as I say, somebody asked him about getting his teeth into folk and all that, and maybe he bit on that. But he praised James Tavernier's accomplishment in coming tomorrow in this game. It'll be Tav's 500th game for Rangers, a total milestone, sometimes a milestone for him as well. But it's one for all the knee-jerkers out there, the people who just instantly, Tav's no leader, he's no a captain. What Barry Ferguson, who has massive experience of being Rangers captain, and the pressures it brings, and he talked about that today. He said the one thing he loves most of all about James Tavernier is that he never hides. He lives up to that responsibility. For the first time ever, I pride myself in doing these pods in a winner in one take. This might be a disaster. I might have to just put this out at this point in time, but I'm going to pause here for reasons I don't want to discuss with, but you can probably guess what they are, and see if I can pause this and come back and resume. So hang on tight. Yeah, has that worked? See, you think I just went away to blow my nose there? I could have been for a 3-course meal and stuff like that. I should probably get a full change of clothes ready, so when I come back it was like instant transformation. So I hope that's worked okay. I hope this is still recording. But yeah, I'd like to pretend I've got a cocaine problem or something, but it's just it's a cold, and it's not pretty. We're a free weekend next weekend, so I'll get to relax the voice, folks, and you'll get to relax your ears listening to my rubbish. Be back to full health in a talking sense anyway after that. Sorry about that, folks. That's a first. I usually do these things and I pride myself on doing them in one take. It might be an hour and a half long, and it might be absolutely awful, but like I say, you can't fake the sincerity. But that's me now. I'm an editor. I'm technical genius. Anyway, so Barry Ferguson, what was I talking about in the press conference? I was talking about James Tavernier, and it's Tav. It's 499 appearances, he's on 129 goals. If he scores tomorrow, it'll be his 100th league goal in his 500th league appearance. I think it's brilliant for Rangers that we have got. It's the most staunch thing ever. We are the club in Britain that should have the highest scoring defender in Britain. It makes perfect sense. He's won all those trophies, Tav. Not enough, okay, but all of the trophies. He's won all 3 of the major domestic trophies in Scotland. He's led us to a European final, which is incredible. He inspired us to a European final. Watching Tav scoring in all those games at Ibrox in the post-group stage run to Seville is a privilege just an amazing thing. It's one of the greatest things. That run from after the group stage up to the final is just one of the greatest things of my life. And the greatest runs of games in any season I have ever witnessed, probably the greatest. And Tav was front and centre, absolutely sensational. So he's always going to be a legend, and it's amazing that in his first game under Barry Ferguson, he's had to switch positions and did it manfully, did it great. The rot stopped when Tav get put into centre half, or did it stop because Balogun Yilmaz went into right back? So I think you can tell from Barry's demeanour today, he was not intending to start James Tavernier at centre half tomorrow. But we do have, and congratulations to Tav when it comes. I'm hoping he plays, and he usually does. That's going to be a lovely moment for him, but only if Rangers can win the game. He was talking, the manager, the interim manager, in his presser, saying we have to dominate. We have to kind of dominate the game. We have to dominate the ball. He's talking about how there's 50,000 of games that Ibrox need to go on, and he's clearly upset by Philippe Clement. He's not mentioning Clement, and I thought other press guys would have pushed it a bit, but I think Barry's starting to dominate the press conferences as well. Only 2 press conferences in, or 2 pre-match press conferences in. I think he's basically saying he's been watching Rangers, obviously, under Clement, and he was just probably abhors it. He probably thought it was absolutely scandalous. Well, he's got a chance to put his money where his mouth is now. The fact that Philippe Clement wanted to give opponents the ball and then rob it off them, steal it off them. He wanted to win by counter-attack in football. And the goals we scored the other night, the corner included, the build-up, the football that earned us that corner. There was a controversy. About whether the ball had come off a Kilmarnock player. Yanis Hagi claiming for the corner from which Dessers made it 2 each. It's clear as day for me, the change in direction. And it's like the Kilmarnock players that come into the shot, the camera shot from behind Yanis Hagi. I think it's the second one. The ball clearly deflects off the inside of his leg and changes direction and goes out for a corner. And we're trying to make it, Scots sports scene and what have you. This was controversial. Only if you are blind. But I think the goals we scored were about just moving from our own half at pace and catching Kilmarnock on the hop. So it was quite counter-attack. It was quite vertical. I feel like we liked the verticality, but we had 60-odd% possession by the end, and that was the thing. Philippe Clement would rather have had 25% possession. That's his team's better set up for that. So there is a change, obviously, in straight away in what Barry's doing with Rangers, and we're obviously going out there tomorrow to be aggressive, to dominate the ball, and he just wants to make teams scared to come to Ibrox. But Brian McLaughlin had said, the BBC was saying, has it become too easy for teams to come to Ibrox in the last few months? And Barry's agreeing out of politeness, but Barry then went on to qualify. He actually mentioned last few weeks. It's bullshit. February. We've had 2 home games in February, and the month of February ends today, so it'll be March tomorrow, all things going according to plan. But we've only 2 home games, and they've both been utter disasters. Absolutely terrible. Losing to Queen's Park, losing to St Mirren without scoring a goal in either game. Losing to them at all, no matter how many goals we score, is just an absolute nightmare. But it was February. I mean, this idea has been on for months. In the month of January, we scored 3 against Celtic, 3 against Aberdeen, 3 against St Johnstone, 4 against Ross County. We were 3-0 up in 25 minutes against St Johnstone, 3-0 up in 35 minutes against Ross County. We're actually blowing teams away at the early part of this calendar year. And to say Philippe Clement had only failed to win one of his domestic home games up until February, up until that game against Queen's Park, and it really was the mother of all games. Dundee United, we'd have drawn with Dundee United in November. It won everything else: League Cup, the one Scottish Cup game against Fraserburgh, and all were league games, bar that one each draw with Dundee United, who are actually having a good season. So it was a fantastic home record, but it didn't go. It was February. It's February, and it just went. It went off a cliff face. It started with one of our worst result of all time in the Scottish Cup. And it ended with an absolute, just a honking game against St Mirren. I was at the game where, was it Gunni Torfarsson, the Icelandic player? It was flag raising day. I think it must have been 89-90 season. I think my dad came along with that one. Was in the main stand. Chris Woods, it was Kenny McDowell went in and clattered Chris Woods, and he dropped the ball, and it was Gunni Torfarsson scored the goal. St Mirren beat us 1-0. Then it was at 1991 or something. Next game, I don't remember anything about that, but I must have been there. Because I remember the next day, I was playing at Ibrox. On the Sunday, I played working for Old Factors. I was working for like property managers, they were called, but they're factors, at that time, and we had a Fitbit team. In the first one I worked for, with this Fitbit team, what were they? Hacking and Patterson. Yeah, so I was working for them for 8 months or something. And I played a few times for the football team, and we won this game doing it Inverclyde. We won 2-1. I scored one of the goals and all that. And I was like, I used to play Inverclyde all the time. I was quite enjoying it, and it was great. And as soon as I went to work for Ross and Liddell, the boys at Hackney, he's wanting to get. You think they've got a team? So we organised a game, and the pitch we played it on was that one that's across the Ibrox. You know, the kind of communal pitch right across. And I'm playing under the main stand, basically at the other side of the main. I haven't played in the Ibrox pitch. Plenty of you have done the same thing, but did you just get beat 20-0? 20-0. I'd played for this team we were playing against. So, in my absence, they added a couple of directors, the guys who hadn't been available that night to play, and one of them was like an ex-pro, you know, and another, like a Stranraer, you know, Troon Juniors, all that kind of thing, that part of the world, Air United's reserves or something like that, but so I'd got my new workmates along to play against my old workmates in this 11-a-side game on a Sunday, you know, everybody half cut and all that out of bed, and they beat us 20-0, and I missed an open goal in this one. So every time I walk along there, you might think things. I mean, we'd get beat 1-0 after St Mirren at Ibrox the day before, so I'm looking in the main stand, kind of recent bad memories, and then I go and get beat 20-0. So things could have been worse last weekend. Could have been worse for you. Have been worse for me after a St Mirren home defeat. Barry was getting in there and saying, he was agreeing. I think it was like for years there's this idea that lots of opposition teams say they come to Ibrox now without any fear. This is Brian McLaughlin pushing this point. And I think Barry was agreeing, I totally, you know, because he mentioned for weeks, did Barry. But I think this idea is we've just not been strong enough at home and not been dominating at home. It's something that really annoys Barry Ferguson, something he will be quite happy to agree with. But I think it was certainly overstated in terms of this season. We've had two monstrously disastrous defeats at Ibrox this season domestically. But everything else has been near perfect. Maybe not always the performances, but that's just something to be borne in mind. The press are there and waiting to go to town, but maybe just by stating facts. But I thought Barry did really well. There was the away fans. Are you pleased to have away fans back at Old Firm games? Oh, aye. That's going to be great. Blah blah blah. I'm not particularly bothered either way. I've no great desire to see Celtic fans back at Ibrox. I have no great desire to see Rangers fans go back to Parkhead. But plenty of us want to do it, so it should be allowed to. It seems right, but we have no relationship whatsoever with the current Celtic board. Even in their statement today, they were talking about the Glasgow Derby. We just played the Glasgow Derby. You know, we get beat. We get beat out of Queen's Park. Why do you not want to talk about that? And we're not using the phrase "Old Firm." Oh, Jesus Christ, that in itself is a prime example of Old Firm, of why it's called the Old Firm. It's the fans, but it's not quite as toxic an example, but it's as obvious an example as Rangers no signing a Catholic for 80 years. You know, because we're just trying to cash in on this sectarian rivalry, and Celtic now doing the kind of, it's not called the Old Firm because old implies that Rangers are old. It's the fans. The Old Firm, it was invented back in 100 years ago. It was because the fans are being exploited. Their desire to follow their team and hate the other one is being exploited by both clubs to the point where it's like an old firm. So that's still in place, the exploitation, even if you want to carry on with this nonsense that Rangers are a new club just now. That's why I'm not really keen to get involved with Celtic at all. But I don't go to away games, so I can't talk about this. I just know it's at 4% of capacity of each stadium. That's going to be the allocation for the away fans. So we're going to get roughly 2,400 at Parkhead in March, and they'll get just over 2,000 for Ibrox after the split. We'll see how that goes. I think it's actually probably more secure when the supports are bigger in terms of being in that away support. But I couldn't really care less. I'm done with it. I'm getting used to it. It's just going to their place and it's all them, and vice versa. But this idea, it's a great spectacle and all that. I never thought that. It is. It can be, but you're so invested in it. It's just. I'm tired of the whole thing. I've lost track of whose points going against who with the away fans thing, and I'm quite happy just to keep things the way they are. But it's going to change, go back to the way it was. And then there's the great replacement theory. No, that one. the one that so much of the kind of the joy about Wednesday at Rugby Park was seemingly proven right. Everyone who didn't just think we needed to get rid of Clement, but also that we'll always need a Rangers man in the job. It should be a Rangers man. It should be. I seem to remember having Rangers men in the job and being told that no, we need to get a continental manager in because it wasn't working. But like all kind of conspiracies, it's there all the time below the surface, just ready to come out again anytime times are hard. Like they were under John Gregg, who is the greatest of all Rangers men on the go these days. It was spectacular on Wednesday. It was like Clement in absentia had the first kind of half hour in charge, and it was 2 down going on 4, so it's proving everybody right about hating Clement, even though Barry was in the technical area as one manager. So Barry steps in, makes his substitution, just like that goal he scored against Dundee United when he'd taken the captaincy from Amaruso all the years ago. He steps in and he makes that substitution. That's his statement. That's him arriving, and it just goes from strength to strength. Instantly changes, and it was like he just. We won by 2, but the thing is, he actually only won by 2 clear goals at an away venue, which is what Clement did in the previous couple of games. I like to talk about Heat. Don't always like to talk about Heat. Oh, well, anyway, don't worry, folks. This is coming to an end. The movie Heat, the 1995 LA crime saga Heat. I like to try and drag that into my Rangers worries. My Rangers whittering. It should be the scene. What's happening now with Barry coming in. It should be the scene where after losing Trejo, Danny Trejo, he gets there's stuff going on at home, so he has to pull out of the heist on the bank. So he phones them up when they're all sitting waiting in the diner to go and rob the bank. I can't make it. A cop was throwing me like a cheap suit. They're all of them like a cheap suit. So he's already the Robert De Niro character. Neil, the leader of the crew, has recognised early doors in that scene that he knows the guy, the grill man, the guy who's behind the counter, the chef, knocking together all the burgers and what have you. And he's saying to Val Kilmer, he said, house with Dobie Rush, D Block, house with Dobie Rush. And so he knows it's like there's somebody on hand to come in and help out when there's a major calamity and you lose a major part of your personnel. He knows that it's Breeden, as played by Michael Haysbert, Dennis Haysbert. He knows how to work the radios and the scanner. Has been a getaway driver, and he just asks them, "Are you cool?" And he's like, "You know I'm cool." And that's what's like with Barry. Are you a Rangers man? Do you know what this club's about? Oh, I'm a true blue. The blue doesn't get much truer than the Fergusons, but it isn't that scene. That's no. Even though Dennis Haysbert's character ends up getting shot and all that, and the bank robbery goes wrong, but I think it's more like what we're in just now is, I think we're feeling like Edie, the love interest for Neil McCauley, for the Robert De Niro character, his love interest as played by Amy Brenneman. They have that one night together. It's a passionate night, and I think they both suspect that it could be love. But it could also just be a one night stand, and just because it's love, it doesn't mean to say it's healthy. I'm not saying Barry's going to get an illegal flight to New Zealand with a murderer and a bank robber, but he does have a kind of criminal record in management. But what he did as Scotland and Rangers captain at the end of his Ibrox playing career is young man stuff. That's over. That's done. And I'm glad he's got a chance to make his Ibrox swan song, if it is, stepping in and managing the club in its time of need, paying his back for any kind of faux pas when he was still a relatively young man. I want him to make this interim gig a rip-roaring success. I want him to bow out with at least an Ibrox Old Firm victory under his belt, but I want him to bow out. I do. At this moment in time, I still want him to bow out. Right now, he's been lauded as much for who he isn't as who he is. I want him by the end of this season being kind of doubly lauded for who he is. His legacy's tidied up. His halo's polished. I had problems with Barry. He broke my heart. But it's lovely feeling that love again, and what I see in him this week, what the job is doing to him, how it consumes him, and how it is him. This job is Barry Ferguson. Barry Ferguson is this job. It's yet another lesson for my kind of snobbery about foreign coaches being the best and all that kind of thing, and yet another. A few of these days, or rarer these days, another moment of pride in homegrown Scottish legends. I love Barry, and I always did. But this has to end. This relationship, it has to end. This cannot be the solution. This can't go beyond May, and I know it won't if Parag Marath buys us, if the 49ers Enterprises buys us, if Leeds United or whatever it is, if they come in and give us the money that's been spoken of just now. Zinedine Zidane, yes, it has been done. The club hero with little coaching experience, and I think Patrick Stewart was less ignorant of our club than I quipped he was the other night to say maybe he's just one of these Aberdonians. I think it's for Aberdeen, Patrick Stewart, who just, no, the Huns, just give him Barry Ferguson, they'll be happy. I think it's more based on his experience of Manchester United when they got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and even this season they've had Ruud van Nistelrooy come in at Old Trafford, did a great and a very emotional job as caretaker for Man U, but I think he's struggling at Leicester now, isn't he? And Solskjaer was not a success when he became the kind of permanent full-time manager at Manchester United. Solskjaer took over from Jose Mourinho at Old Trafford, and Barry will take on Jose Mourinho on Thursday. He will need to beat him. And Barry will need to beat Fenerbahce and maybe go a bit further if he's to be anything other than a caretaker manager under the new Ibrox regime, under any serious Ibrox regime. If that happens, then we'll talk again. All I want, however, is for him to get us back to winning home form domestically and to oversee a performance that lets him kind of sub Tav off with 5 minutes from time, make it 10, Subway loyal. Because he's already got his 100th league goal for us, and even if not, even if he doesn't get that goal in the Tav, he deserves his ovation. All I want is to see one legend of a Rangers captain given his moment by another. All I want is last Saturday eroded by this Saturday. I want it to vanish last Saturday. I want it just confined to the very darkest little attic at the back of my tiny brain. All I want, like everybody else, is to have a nice quiet Saturday night in front of the telly, beer, crisps, a movie, and just knowing that I can enjoy Sunday. I can go for a walk on Sunday. I can get a wee coffee or something somewhere, maybe even a pint, and I'm going to be able to walk up the road and just totally enjoy the Sky Super Sunday. Once again, I want us to feel more like excited little kids than stressed out grown-ups. I'll talk to you after the game tomorrow, Trips. Thank you.